Waqf is not means of making money. It's a means of service. Right? Unlike in a temple, you go and pray to a god, and then you make your offerings to God in the form of money. In my career, I'm now 77, I don't know of anybody who has given triple talaq. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure there are instances of triple talaq. I'm not disputing that. And anyway, Supreme Court has ruled on it. Congress is fine. I'm a congressman at heart. I'm more of a congressman than many.
So you can always go back to the Congress?
I can always go back to the Congress. When there are allegations against the judiciary, first of all, you must protect the institution. Till such time you have absolute proof, right? You should not vilify the judge. I mean, this was an ideal case where there should have been a gag order. I am totally against gag orders. But this was an ideal case when there should have been a gag order saying, we will not allow all this to happen in the public domain till our in-house procedure is over. If I am a Tamilian, or if I am from Andhra, and I come to India, I may not know Hindi in that form, but I will still understand it. So it's not an issue. But you want to make it an issue because you want to say you should have engineering books in Tamil when we come to power, right? I will have medical books in Tamil. What's the relevance of that? That's not language. That's script.
Hello and welcome to The Print. We have with us a special guest, seasoned politician and Rajya Sabha MP Kapil Sibal. Welcome to The Print, sir. So we heard your speech in the Rajya Sabha. You made some very strong points. Now the BJP...
Some weak ones also.
Now the BJP is planning to go to people to tell them about the merit of Waqf law. How do you see, this will sort of play out?
Whenever you want to explain something to somebody, you first must know about it. So how do you explain something to somebody that you don't know about? And that's the state of the BJP. They are living in ignorance. They don't know what Waqf is. They don't know the historical aspects of Waqf. They don't even know Waqf by user, what it is. And they have abolished it contrary to a judgment of the Supreme Court, which said that Waqf for user is an established mode of Waqf. 5 judges of the Supreme Court said it, and yet they've abolished. So if those who don't know can't propagate, because they will only convey ignorance to those who listen to them.
But the BJP said, there was exhaustive sort of discussion. JPC was there. Parliament was running, till late midnight.
Yeah.
So everyone was given an opportunity to, sort of give their views on it.
You see, we have exhaustive discussions in the public domain, but does the mainstream media even mention that? So you can have any number of exhaustive discussions, but there should be somebody who wants to understand it, listen to it, and absorb some of the good points that have been made. So I can have a conversation with you, and you can respond to it. But if I say, look, I have majority, I'll do what I want, and then you can't say, no, I had exhaustive discussions. It's meaningless.
But what is your biggest apprehension about this legislation?
See, they don't know what Waqf is. Let me now explain to the leaders, to your viewers. See, you go to a temple. Anybody who goes to a temple, in temples, what happens is that whoever goes does a chadawa, right? And thousands and thousands and crores of rupees are accumulated by these temples. Then they have huge parcels of land. Then some of them do charitable activities, set up educational institutions, earn from them, right? So they have huge monies and they can do a lot of charity. Unlike a Waqf, supposing I set up a Waqf for a graveyard, what will I earn from it? Nobody does a chadawa, right? You come to the graveyard, the person who is in charge of the graveyard will say that it costs you 25,000 rupees to bury the person. It may actually cost him about 10, 12, 15. That 10,000 rupees that he gets extra, he maintains that graveyard. Right? You get the point? So you see the huge difference. Waqf is not a means of making money. It's a means of service. Right? Unlike in a temple, you go and pray to a god, and then you make your offerings to God in the form of money. Right? Now, that's what you have to understand. So, whether it's for a graveyard or it's for, say, a charitable purpose for a homeless people,
right,
a shelter home for women, You don't make money on it. You can't have a shelter home for women and charge them 20,000 rupees a night. You get the point? So these are either religious or charitable purposes, right? That's point number one, which distinguishes it from all other activities. Have you heard any BJP member even understand this? That's point number one. Point number two, that Waqf emerges out of your private property, right? Unlike a lot of institutions which have occupied government land. So if I have private property and I have some extra land and I say, okay, you can set up a shelter home there. I can't occupy somebody else's land, right? And if I do occupy somebody else's land, then a proceeding can be initiated against me and I can be thrown out. So one, Waqf is only your own private land which you own. That's point number two. Point number three, that this Waqf has been, this concept of Waqf was started at the time of Muhammad. Why it was started? Because at that point in time when people went to war, there were a lot of widows. And Prophet Muhammad thought that how do you take care of these widows? So he was first of all encouraging widow remarriage, and also in the context of Waqf said that you take care of them. Right? So it's charitable purpose. And then, of course, for a religious purpose, you would have a mosque, and people would come and pray. There also you don't make money. The mosque is dilapidated, right? How do you then keep the maintenance of the mosque? So you'll have to get money from somewhere to keep that maintenance. Unlike Hindu religious endowments, that also there is a huge difference. Then, if this has been going on, Waqf by user has been going on for 100, 300, 400 years, take Jama Masjid, built 400 years ago. Today, if somebody says, give me how it was established, or give me those papers, where would you find it? How do I register it? How do I know who was the originator of that Waqf on which Jama Masjid is built?
So it's quite complex.
It's highly complex. Do any of them understand it? You are only talking about Aurangzeb in the speech. You heard those speeches in Rajya Sabha when I was there. Yes. It was about Aurangzeb. It was about, Hinduism. What has that got to do with the concept? Now, what you're doing is you're destroying the whole concept. And you are interfering in religious activities, which is part of the fundamental right of the community under 25, 26 of the Constitution, subject only to morality, health, and public order. And none of this is impacted. So it's a thoughtless exercise, but again, it's part of a political agenda, starting with Love Jihad, Flood Jihad, Places of Worship Act, UCC, one law, one country, whatever. Then this, then put up your names, put up the owners of those restaurants along the way. Don't buy from members of this community. Don't allow meat shops to open during. What's going on there? It is part of that agenda. And these are not, according to me, national agendas for this country. The national agendas of this country are health, education, unemployment, skill development, meeting the challenges of tomorrow for our youth. That's what this nation needs to address. And all you're doing is addressing these things that really don't impact the nation, but impacts your politics because you want to divide the nation into Hindus and Muslims.
But how do you see the role of the opposition in all this?
See, I am not here to extol the virtues of the opposition, nor am I to extol the virtues of the government. I am just telling you what I understand of Waqf, and I can tell you that these guys don't understand it.
I'll take you back to your speech once again. You also talked about, reforms for Hindus.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
See, somebody talked about triple talaq. Now, that had nothing to do with Waqf. What has that got to do with Waqf? Nadaji talked about it. The leader of the House, talking about the subject of Waqf, talks about triple talaq. Now, what is triple talaq? First of all, quite frankly, in my career, I'm now 77, I don't know of anybody who has given triple talaq. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure there are instances of triple talaq. I'm not disputing that. And anyway, Supreme Court has ruled on it. But you have to say talaq, talaq, talaq thrice. Correct? Now, if it comes to a Hindu woman, you don't have to say it. You just shut the door. So it's easier. It's much easier. You tell her, daughter-in-law, dear, from tomorrow, you're not allowed entry into this house. So if they're so worried about Muslim women, why are they not worried about Hindu women? That's why I said that Hindu dharma mein bhi sudhar hona chahiye. Right? This is not the only thing. This thing about excluding women from through a will, through self-acquired property, is it acceptable? Why should a daughter not be entitled? Have they thought about it? Because they're not interested. Because that they think they lose the Hindu vote. So there's nothing to do with women. Nothing to do with their concern for Muslim women. It's all about pure politics.
Is it why you said that, Muslims should not be targeted through legislations?
Absolutely. That's what they're doing. They're doing this all the while. This UCC is a completely unconstitutional law. I mean, you are enacting a law for live-in relationships when the state doesn't have the constitutional authority to do so, because the entry in the list is marriage, divorce, and other things. There's nothing to do with live-in relationships. But this, because you want to target the interfaith marriage, that's also politics. So we are living in an era where this government is not concerned about India and the people of India. They're concerned about winning elections.
I know you're not in the Congress, but you are an opposition leader. So, in that respect, I just want to ask you about the AICC session that took place, where you saw leaders like Shashi Tharoor, they talked about, party needs to embody hope rather than resentment. We need to move forward. Do you think the Congress is ready for that transition?
See, first of all, as I said, and I have always kept that promise to myself, that I shall never talk about the Congress party or comment on it, as long as I'm out of the Congress. I did comment on it when I was in the Congress, but that's what I have said to myself, and I will not comment on it.
But it's been quite some time since you left Congress.
That doesn't matter.
No, but you didn't join any other party.
That I said publicly, that I will never join any other party. And I've kept to that promise. And I will never.
Okay, not about Congress, but what about the India Bloc? It somehow seems dormant.
I have made my concern about the India Bloc public, that they are not working as a cohesive team. They don't have a national agenda. They don't have a national alternative. It's not about adjusting seats at the time of election. It's about a vision. They need a secretariat. They need spokespersons for the India Bloc. They need to collaborate with each other on issues that are confronting the nation. They need to speak with one voice on certain issues. Some problems will arise, but those can be certainly ironed out. So I don't think that's a problem, but they just don't have a strategy.
But why do you think, what is ailing them? Is it a leadership issue? What is it?
I have no idea. I don't talk about these things. You ask me, so I answer.
Okay, why I'm asking this is because we saw the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, and despite the BJP being reduced to a minority, the public perception somehow is that the opposition has dropped the ball after that.
No. First of all, the 236 seats is not the correct outcome.
Okay,
it's much less than that. And how they got the 236 seats, you and I can privately talk about it.
But do you think many political pundits say that BJP has become a bit of vulnerable after 11 years, and the Lok Sabha results in a way show that, indicate that, but they still look invincible.
I tell you, I don't think it's a question of invincibility. I think their great strength is the ability to throw all constitutional virtues into the ocean and do what they like, and aggrandize power through absolutely illegal means. Don't allow people to vote, amass the kind of wealth they have amassed through electoral bonds and otherwise, buy out people, make governments fall by buying out people or offering. When I say buy, I don't mean literally A, B, or C, but offering the kind of goodies that they offer, either a Rajya Sabha seat or in some respect, some benefits. They control the election commission who do their bidding. They control the media through the advertisements and through some very, very, what should I say, polite telephone calls. So they control the mainstream media. So they control the office of the governors. Thank God the Supreme Court has come down heavily. They control the speakers in the Lok Sabha in anti-defection matters. Which is that institution that they control in this country? This has never happened in the history of India.
But where do they derive their strength from?
Power. Exercise of power through ED, through CBI, through income tax, through all kinds of things. In other words, if you control the machinery of any state, then election is not relevant. Then you can win an election. Then you are invincible. So the invincibility is by throwing out of the window all constitutional norms on the basis of which our constitution was framed. If I don't play by the rules of the game and the third empire is mine, I can get anybody out. Right? And their third empire, fourth empire, fifth empire, first empire, they're all theirs.
But there's also been a lot of debate about EVMs and other electronic malpractices.
EVMs.
But do you think the election process is not fair?
There's no doubt about it. There is no question not fair. There's no doubt about it. How do you get 35 votes in a minister's place? When two people are living in the house. We know that. You've seen my Dil Se program.
Yes,
not
yes.
that I'm advertising.
No, I've seen it.
I've seen it where we've given all the details. Right? You don't allow. What happened in I think it was Azamgarh. Police didn't allow people to come out of their houses. You pick up people, you pick up pradhans, you put this black mark on them, and you take away their cards. Where are we going? So what elections are we talking about? There are no elections in this country.
As Mr. Pandey said, election was a fraud in Maharashtra.
No, but I see who said or what said, and I'm giving you details. It's only deception, no election.
But do you think it's also somewhat to do with the fact that the opposition doesn't have a face to match the popularity of PM Modi?
No, but if you don't, I mean, you are taking an interview of mine, right? If in this leza, in this environment, the mainstream media takes my interview and they'll be stopped. How do I reach people? You tell me. I can't reach people. See, in the age of technology, the only way to reach people is through technology. That's why social media is dead against them. And mainstream media is, flowing with the tide.
There's also a lot of talk about judicial accountability, especially in the backdrop of cash allegedly, that was found, then a Supreme Court inquiry. What do you think? How do you think this entire, issue? What is it that needs to be done?
No, I've also publicly stated what needs to be done. I think what needs to be done is to have a institutional system in place, not an ad hoc response to a situation.
But what do you mean by an institutional system?
Institutional system means that you have to set up procedures. See, when you talk about the judiciary, we're not talking about some ordinary person, right? Because the only institution can then save us today, and the kind of constitutional onslaught that is taking place, is the judiciary. So when there are allegations against the judiciary, first of all, you must protect the institution. Till such time you have absolute proof, right? You should not vilify the judge. I mean, this was an ideal case where there should have been a gag order. I am totally against gag orders. But this was an ideal case when there should have been a gag order saying, we will not allow all this to happen in the public domain till our in-house procedure is over. Right? Because you're dealing with an institution.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, and I've said that publicly again, nothing should have been released till such time that you can't release something, especially when it emanates from the judiciary, because people will immediately believe it. And then have an in-house probe. The in-house probe should happen first, And then if you come to a conclusion that there is something wrong, then there should be a release.
Right.
That's number two. Number three, the mechanism should be discussed with the bar as well when you formulate it, right? Because, see, just as the bench knows about the members of the bar, we members of the bar also know about the bench. I'm not talking about only here, but all over the country. Our members of the bar know who is what. Right? When you know that certain people, for example, you take the case of Mr. Yadav from UP, who made that statement publicly. Right? Now, there was no proof required for that. What did you do about it? He called him. We don't know what's happened after that. That means there's no institutional mechanism in place. Right? You had that judge in Calcutta who said what he said, and you know what happened now. He's in the Rajya Sabha. You have no institutional mechanism in place. So you need to have an institutional mechanism which you must put in place after discussing with the bar. And there must be constant interaction, because we can tell them things that they don't know about. And they can tell us things that we don't know about.
Right.
And it's a collaborative exercise, because we want to actually deal with bad pennies, because one bad penny can give a very bad name to the institution. We don't want that to happen, because this is our life.
But do you think NJAC is the answer? The issue...
Not at all. Not at all.
Even Vice President hinted at, had NJAC been there, it would have been a solution.
Vice President gets inspiration from somewhere that I don't know. But I certainly believe that NJAC is no solution at all. It's a government that can destroy all the institutions that we have. With NJAC, will even destroy the only institution that is left.
But large part of NJAC was done during the UPA's time.
So what? I'm against it.
And why?
Because I think that's not a solution. Government should be represented in the selection of judges, but government should not have control over the selection of judges. Therefore, you should have a broad-based selection process, which I have explained in other platforms.
But do you think such incidents, they hit the image of the judiciary?
Look at this incident. The outcome is a zero-sum game for the judiciary. It's a zero-sum game. If actually nothing is found, right? And he's one of our finest judges, quite frankly. We've never heard anything negative about the man. If nothing is found, the public will say, you've protected him. You've covered up the incident. And if you go ahead with the matter, every litigant will say when he loses a case that the judge was given money. So it's a zero-sum game.
But many are even criticizing the fact that, as a form of punishment, you have transferred him from one court to another.
So let's not go into all that. I've just given you my broad, right, wrong is not the issue. We're talking about institutions, and I've given you some thoughts on that aspect.
Well, my colleague Apurva Mandhani, she also did a story about how 60% judges in Supreme Court are either dynast or they come from, lawyer families. And there's also significant judges who are in High Court who are dynasts.
Achha, yaar, main aapse पूछना चाहता हूँ, how many journalists don't come from journalist families?
Well, I don't.
You may not. How many doctors don't come from doctors' families? How many politicians don't come from politicians' families? How many lawyers don't come from lawyers' families? So this is the wrong way. I mean, what as a child, when I get to see my father in practice of law, naturally, my first inclination would be that. I mean, not that in every case it would happen, but this is normal. I mean, this is very unfair if you ask me. Point is not they don't come from judges, they come from them. But then some of them who come from judges' families are not competent and they are made judges. That's where the institutional mechanism will have to work. You get the point? To be in practice because your father was in practice is fine. To be a judge because your father was a judge is bad.
But the same question is asked to politicians also,
Yeah.
In politics also they say,
Yeah, but politics is not an institution, no? Politics is a political party of volunteers. So therefore you can't apply the same standards.
Right. I still feel that there seems to be a renewed push for NJAC. Even opposition leaders, some of them are talking about it.
No, I don't. I think they've backed off a bit.
Yeah.
After I made some comments.
But what do you think? I mean, as you said, there should be institutional mechanism. how do you think the opposition? What is it that the opposition can do about it, as far as this issue is
Not pass the
concerned?
NJAC bill, period.
But one needs to have the numbers too.
No, but it'll be struck down again. I hope it is, because, see, you can't give this power to the establishment which has already ruined all constitutional institutions in this country. Look the way proceedings are being conducted. Look the way of the CEC. Just look at it.
We've talked about Waqf, we've talked about NJAC. Another big issue that it has already triggered a controversy is the the NEP and the 3-language formula. What do you think? What are your views on it?
Is language really the main issue in this country that we have to be confronted with? Really, do you think it's really a problem?
But it's become such a big issue
why
with
do you
southern
think?
states,
Again,
especially.
it's the same issue. It's the same politics. It's only political. Which child has complained about the 3-language formula? Nobody has complained. And which child in Haryana knows anything other than either Hindi or English? Which is the 3rd language they know? Do they know?
So should we have 3
No,
language?
So why are we talking about a 3-language formula? If you're asking me, should we have a 3rd
Because
language?
NEP talks about it.
From Punjab, if anybody knows Punjabi, right? What other language do they know? Hindi and Punjabi. And the kind of, see, first of all, again, this is again ignorance of those who are in power. What is language? Does anybody know what a language is? Language is what you and I can understand. Right?
Communicate.
Language is about communication. Right? Now, if I were to read the official documents going around in Uttar Pradesh, I don't understand what that is. That's not language. Language is about the oral word. It's not the written word. Right? It is not about the script. Right? So therefore, if I am a Tamilian, or if I am from Andhra, and I come to India, I may not know Hindi in that form, but I will still understand it. So it's not an issue. But you want to make it an issue because you want to say you should have engineering books in Tamil when we come to power. Right? I will have medical books in Tamil. What's the relevance of that? That's not language. That's script. So if you don't know the difference between language and script, then only you will make such statements.
But do you have concerns about Hindi being pushed in this entire episode?
Every language, see, as a child, I will learn my mother tongue, first of all. But that's where my mother will speak to me in that language. Like I am from Punjab, I know Punjabi. But today, I used to be able to write. Today, I cannot write Punjabi. But I still know it. But that's my language. Merely because I can't write the speak doesn't mean that I don't speak. That Punjabi is not my language. Right? So this is really not an issue at all. Anybody who wants to learn Hindi will learn Hindi. And if he cannot communicate and he has to communicate, he'll still learn Hindi.
So what's the way out then?
Way out is to talk about bhukmari, to talk about unemployment, to talk about poverty, to talk about your skill development. This is what the real issues in this country are, of AI, the impact of AI. Talk about things that matter to the youth of this country, to us, as a nation, not for your politics. Every time you have these divisive issues only to gain sympathy and votes.
Another issue is delimitation. It's constitutionally mandated. We have not, we have been delaying it for many years. Southern states have raised their concern. How do you resolve the stalemate?
Nothing. You just freeze it. You cannot resolve it like this. You can't give an undue advantage to those who have those kept their population stable, and for those who haven't. You can't give an undue advantage.
But this is an issue, which seems like it's going to snowball into a major controversy.
It will, but I think if this country is worried about the future of, if anybody is worried about, I am worried about the future of my country. If these people are, they will freeze it.
Yeah. So you think that
they should freeze it. They should freeze it.
That's it.
That's it. That's the wisest thing to do.
And do you think that is something that can happen?
No, I don't know. Because it's
with the way the
with
opposition,
this government, anything can happen.
Right. Apart from politics, we know that in 1973 you cleared civil services.
Yeah.
This is such a coveted it's seen as a career that every youth would want to get
At
into.
that time, there was nobody who said no to it.
Exactly. Why did you say no to it?
Because I didn't want to be a civil servant. I didn't want to be somebody's employee.
Okay. But how was
I'm too
it?
free-spirited for that.
So why did you take the exam?
My dad said, we are 4 brothers. And the 2 elder ones were in the IAS. Third one was in the Foreign Service. He became our Foreign Secretary also. And my parents said that if you don't sit for the exam, they'll think that you're not capable of it.
So you wanted to prove it to them?
So, no, I didn't want to prove it. It's for my father.
Okay.
I said, okay.
And then law?
Yeah, and he never objected to it.
Okay.
He said, fine, do law, no problem.
And why politics then from law?
Accident. I'm a politician by accident.
But have you enjoyed these many years?
I love it. I love politics. I love law. I love many things.
But how was it growing up in Chandigarh? I mean, if you reflect
I
on
was
your
a sports person. I was not into academics at all. I never stood second in any race. I was the captain of my cricket team, captain of my hockey team. I was into sports big time. Then in college, I was into theatre big time. And I'm sporting in law, very sporting, and theatrical when required.
Right.
But I love being who I am.
And as you said, you will not join a party. That is for sure.
Nowhere in the world. I've made a public statement. I have never gone back on anything that I've said ever in my life.
But they always say, never say never.
No, never.
No?
Never.
See, it will never change.
No, I will not bargain for a Rajya Sabha seat to become a member of a party.
But what if Congress wants your...
Congress is fine. I'm a congressman at heart. I'm more of a congressman than many.
So you can always go back to the Congress?
I can always go back to the Congress.
So there's no for Congress?
Never. There never has been. I just went out because they didn't need me.
So if in future
if they need me, I'll certainly consider it.
But how do you see Rahul Gandhi? You've seen him closely, over 20 years or so.
No comments.
No, but as a leader,
No comments.
Nothing to speak on Congress?
I'll never comment on the Congress party. I said that to you.
Okay. And one last question. How do you think this entire profession of law has undergone change? Do you think it has not changed?
Sad. It's a radical change. First of all, too many entrants. There is no, what should I say? You have to make sure. For example, when I took the New York bar, I went abroad and practiced. I was a member of the New York bar. I sat for that exam. In that exam, 60% pass or 40% fail. Because they say they decide we'll only take 60% of those who wanted to become lawyers. Right? Those who have a law degree can do other things, but they can't practice law as such in a law firm, something like that. But the law degree will help them get a corporate job or anything like that. So we need to have a system because the number of people entering the profession are such that you are developing, certain practices which are not conducive to the profession itself. So we need, one, to take care of that. Two, I don't think that people should just start practicing in the Supreme Court straight away, though that's benefit I got. That also is a problem. Three, I think that just as any other profession or vocation in this country is controlled by the creamy layer. Right? That's true of everything in this country, which is a terrible thing. Right? Your economy is controlled by the creamy layer. Your politics is controlled by the less creamy layer. Your media is controlled by the creamy layer. Everything is controlled by just a few people. And that's also true of the law. That's also not right. So I think lots of things have to be done about the profession. We have not lived up to the profession, quite frankly. I'm not criticizing anybody. See, what is this profession? Why are we in law? Because we are wedded to the values of the Constitution. right? And the Constitution has certain values inbuilt into it of a fabric of a country which has absorbed, colors of different hues, right? Just as in a family, you act as a family even though each of you speak differently or have different perceptions of life. But you still act as a family because you think you're a unit and we have to get together as a family. Unfortunately, in this country, we've lost that value. Lawyers have become also divisive because they are wedded to certain ideologies. I may be a congressman, but when I'm in a court of law, I'm not. Because I'm wedded only to the Constitution and its values. I may be right, I may be wrong, but that's how I project any submission in a court of law.
Right.
That's not happening anymore, right? And a lot of political agendas are coming, that's one big problem. The other problem is that the purpose of a lawyer is to stand up and protect people. It's a service profession. It's not a business. And a lot of us deal with it as a business, not as a service profession. So just as a doctor needs to look at a patient, whether he is capable of paying or not in an emergency, we have to do the same thing. We need to stand up for people who are persecuted, who are prosecuted unfairly, unjustly, who are kept in jail unjustly. We need to stand up for them. It doesn't matter if we get remuneration for it or not. Lawyers must stand up for causes. They've stopped doing that. We've not lived up to the expectations of the profession. And that's a sad thing.
Well, you said you're a lawyer, then you entered politics. How has politics changed? Because, I have also seen, through my eyes, of course, it's a limited
divisive. It's become very divisive. And see, this is the problem. This country is so complex. We're talking about 140 crore people. So complex. You can never satisfy anybody. Why did Congress lose its umbrella support? Because it could not accommodate, naturally, it could not accommodate the aspirations of those who were part of the Congress party. So all of these people, most of them who have left and joined other parties, are all essentially congressmen. Because their views and their ideology, or their perceptions could not be accommodated. Because the country is so vast. So no political party can accommodate. That creates divisiveness. And if you allow divisiveness to go beyond a point, it will create anarchy, right? So we need to actually, and when you talked about, had you started with the Waqf bill, you need to actually listen to people. A conversation is not about hearing people, it's about listening. There's a difference about hearing people and listening to people. You have to listen to people and absorb the positive things that they say and make it a unified agenda, right? That stopped happening in politics. In many parts of the country, there is anarchy. What happened in Manipur? It's complete anarchy. What will happen in other parts? Complete anarchy. And when you're anarchy has different sort of connotations. Anarchy is also sometimes associated with violence, right? Part of it has happened in Manipur. But anarchy is also a disruption of the constitutional mechanisms which are the basis of how we move forward. Those mechanisms have all vanished. So that is anarchy.
But many also argue that now that Waqf, this bill has been passed, it has become a law. There are certain states like West Bengal, they're saying that we will not implement it. There are protests across some of the states.
This is a problem. If you don't take if you don't understand the issue, as I tried to explain, it's bound to happen. And question is, I tell you what the politics behind it is. Perhaps nobody has said this. What's going to happen is there's a particular provision in this law, which is 3D, which nobody in Parliament has even touched. It says that any place which is part of an ancient monument, right, and part of the under the archaeological, right, will not be recognized. as a Waqf. Now see what's going to happen. Sambal, it's part of a monument. They will say, now there's a law. You have no right to pray. The politics behind it is every other day there will be a dispute between thousands and thousands of Waqfs. Then that will be part of the mainstream media. And that will create the kind of momentum that this party wants to continue with their agenda. Every day there will be an issue, like there have been on places of worship, but those are few and far between. This is an everyday affair. And see, that's what's going to happen.
So it's just started.
It just started. It's part of that agenda.
One last question. I know I said the last was the previous one, but how do you see India's response on the entire US tariff imposition? How have they responded so
actually,
far?
India has very few choices in this matter. Right? Luckily for us, there's a 10% tariff now, and there's a 90
days pause. Yes.
Yeah. So that's not an issue. But what are the main areas where we're going to be impacted? Textiles. Hugely impacted. And textiles, the possibility, because the margins are very low. So the possibility of an adjustment between the exporter and importer really doesn't exist. Badly affected. Then pharmaceuticals. So far, there has been no tariff on that. Once the pharmaceuticals are impacted, with 12 billion worth that we export. Very bad. It will be terrible for us. Gems, jewelry, correct? And then of course, iron and steel products, which already have been impacted. So in some key sectors, and of course, what they're going to bargain for is agriculture, meat products, poultry products, which will destroy our industry here. So I think we wisely we're not responded. That's good policy.
Because China has.
China has no choice. China has no choice. China has to respond. I mean, once it said 85% or whatever, or 84%, they said 125, now they say 150. Right? So China it has to respond. But as far as we are concerned, we have very little bargaining power. So we are going to have to negotiate, to be able to come out successfully in this. It's a tough call, but I'm sure they are quite skillful in matters like that.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Sibal, for your time. It was a pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you.
This is Neelam Pandey reporting for ThePrint.